in the moment. And don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away.
Welcome everyone to Voices in Action, a podcast brought to you by Eastern Oregon Center for Independent Living, a global disability resource and advocacy center, where here we dive deep into the lived experiences of many individuals at the heart of policymaking, substance use, LGBTQI+ advocacy and support, and so much more. In each episode, where we'll explore personal stories from individuals that shed light on real-world impacts and how they shape the lives of those in our community. Join us as we get insights from those who've walked the path and are making strides. So stay tuned as we unravel the threads of policy and personal journey and discover how EOCIL is making a difference in the lives of people, one story at a time. All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Voices in Action. Today I have someone from Four Rivers Recovery, someone I've been wanting to do a podcast with for quite some time now. And thankfully they were able to give me some of their time to actually join me. Randal, thank you so much for being here and giving me some of your time to actually go over a lot of the work that you do. If you want to give a self-introduction about like who it is that you are, what it is that you do, let the people know who you are.
Okay, hi, my name is Randal Llanas. I've opened Four Rivers Recovery here in Ontario, Oregon. We are a small substance use facility that here currently we've seen an uptick in need, and we've just kind of opened, giving it a try and trying to give people choices.
Right, and then that's something like really nice to hear and see, especially like there's a lot of talk like, oh, I wish there was this and that, and there's so much what Andrew Gerza said in this one episode called a lot of lip talk, or there's a lot of talking and not actually doing it. But the fact that you actually saw a need and actually committed to doing something about it by starting up the Four Rivers Recovery, being able to provide these services, I think is like really amazing, and not a lot of people take actual action. And I get there's a lot of times where people can't take action, but the fact that you were able to see the need and actually want to do something is absolutely amazing. But before we kind of like jump into like the Four Rivers stuff, I kind of wanted to dive into a little bit about yourself and get the people familiar with you. I've always found that and in my personal experience, I don't know if you've noticed this too, but being able to relate to individuals, especially people who use substances, is a really, really powerful and strong thing that I don't know that I've taken into account every time I meet individuals, is to be as true and genuine with them and to like treat them as any one of my friends, just have honest conversations with them. So I kind of want to ask you some questions here about some of your upbringing. Did you grow up here in Ontario, Oregon, or?
Nissa, Oregon, born and raised. I went to school, graduated Nissa, just kind of grew up between Nissa and Parma outside. My uncles owned a farm, so I started working farm work early, 9 years old. So I'd like to add to the positive of the area.
To the positive of the area. And then were you kind of like an only child growing up, or what was like your family structure?
No, mom and dad. Dad was from Piedras Negras, Mexico. Mom was from Parma, Idaho. Brother, I got a younger brother, younger sister. I'm the oldest, and we just kind of grew up in that multicultural household. My family is I got a lot of family in Texas. Still have some family here in the area, but I've got to kind of see best of both worlds.
Okay. And kind of then when you were younger, like tying this into today, did you see the same needs, or like did you see the same struggles that people were going through that we currently see here in Ontario or like the surrounding area of Malheur County?
Oh, no. I think it was a lot more. I think it was a lot more hidden. I mean, I don't know if I want to use the word hidden. It just wasn't. We didn't have near the homeless population, or you just never heard of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just kind of one of them things where, it was just not as prevalent or open to as it is now.
Okay, because I know Like even for myself growing up, it was never something that I really grew up around. And like now that I live in a really big city, there's a lot of people who like through my conversations with them and just telling them about what it is that I do, where they say like things along the lines of it wasn't something I noticed because I was so young and it wasn't something that impacted me directly, but like there was always a need for it. And so myself growing up in a small town, I never saw that. The only time I ever saw it was when we traveled to like a big city, when we were going on big family vacations and driving through like California, parts of Oregon, like Portland, stuff like that is the only time I would actually see individuals who actually really need help, whether it was like struggling with houselessness, substance use and stuff like that. So it's something I was never really exposed to, and something that really took a while for me to adjust to once I moved over here, and then especially when I started doing the job. So like while you were growing up then, was this kind of work and something that you thought you were going to do originally, or how did you wind up caring?
Mine was by pure accident. I worked corrections for almost 13 years. Had moved to Boise, and that's as far out as I got, and then moved back to the area. Went to TVCC, started getting my. I wanted to finish up my education, so I got my bachelor's later in life. And honestly, I just went to apply for a job at Lifeways, and it was by pure accident. They said, "Here you go." They slid me over a paper with what I applied for. And then they slid me over paper that I'm just like, a counselor? Me, a counselor? No, this isn't gonna. Yeah. And then when they offered me after my interview, said you can do this, you can have this one, but we'd really like you to try this one, and that was a CADC candidate. And I said, yeah, I'll try it. Let's see what that's all about. So it was really by accident.
Really by accident. And then, well, how did you get in corrections then too? Just before I keep jumping ahead.
Oh, corrections! I just, I just kind of remember at that time, criminal justice degrees and everything that was kind of the thing to do at TVCC, and I just ended up applying for both Oregon, Snake River, and Idaho, and Idaho called me first, and I went, yeah, let's make the move and have it happen. Let's try it.
What was your then? I don't know, like attitude or feeling to working in corrections for like all the people that you had to interact with or that were there in the facilities? Because I bet that's completely maybe different from working at Lifeways or working right now at Four Rivers. What was your initial feelings? Or
well, it like I said, it kind of changed. All this kind of changed. Corrections, it was okay. I was good at it. I hated it. I hated that was the end result for people. But I also, you start in that kind of work, you start reeling and making your groups, your group smaller, people around you smaller, not necessarily isolating, but the trust of just overall human nature. And that was me. That was what I was dealing with. And then going to getting out and seeing kind of what the world was like, I didn't have that. If you'd asked me 10 years ago, I'd be where I am at and caring about individuals. I would have told you were crazy, just because that was such a negative environment.
Yeah.
And always having to look over your shoulder or deal with this or deal with that. It was tiring. So if you'd have told me 10 years ago that I'd be doing what I'm doing, I'd have said you were nuts.
No, I found myself in that same boat, and I've shared this multiple times on here, so I won't go into it in too detail. But yeah, like my original view, terrible, horrible compared to them today, and hopefully like through all the work, it shows, and like I've even surprised at myself the amount of growth that I've gone through. So then, what was it then at Lifeways or that kind of started shifting your idea?
I think it was going through some of them groups and teaching some of the groups, going through some of the training and learning from that training and going, man, this is actually helping me, understand myself, helping me understand my background. My father struggled with alcohol, and so it kind of went, hand in hand, and then getting that other perspective of a CADC counselor, it kind of, you start looking at yourself and going, man, I'm really messed up.
Yeah.
And that was me looking at me going, wow, how does this pertain to me? And anytime I taught something or learned something, I compared it back to where I struggled or what I had, dealing with growing up. It was kind of a number of things.
Yeah. Would you say then to like, what's the word? Like somewhat of an imposter syndrome, I think is what it's called. Like, am I really good enough to like do this if I haven't done the work myself? Like in terms of like counseling others and then finding, that some of the stuff that you're teaching or you're training on actually helps you and it's like relevant to your own like personal life and history.
Well, I don't know if it was necessarily imposter. It was more of taking a look at me and going, I'm sure I probably should look at me and the things that I've dealt with, and maybe it was before I can help other people and guide them. I want to know that that I'm okay, right?
Yeah.
I'm not, and it was just the time. I look at it. It was a time we grew up in.
Yeah.
It was a generational thing in my mind, but I learned like, wow, here I am. Here I am doing this, and what it started out as by accident, it's kind of shifted to where I want to, I want to help people instead of seeing people stuck.
Yeah. And is that what you felt like you were kind of at the other spot, just seeing them where they were stuck?
Yeah.
So then when did you decide to, transition over to doing the forward recovery, starting that up? And
well, we've been open since like around Halloween of 2022. And what had happened is I went in and helped a group of people open Altruistic. I was one of the original partners of that. And I just didn't like the direction that was going. And so I walked away from that, just said I'd had enough. And it wasn't without some trials or tribulations. What had happened is in the process of throwing myself into opening that company, I kind of lost myself in it, and my father was ill, and I just overlooked. I was just so into what I was doing that I had overlooked a lot of family, a lot of different stuff like that. I was excited to get a chance at opening something, this and that, and then when I walked away, I was just like, man, I left everything, oversight. I just missed everything. So, Dad ended up passing, and then I got a little bit of an inheritance, and that's what I have done. That's what I used to get it, and it's been, some of it's just been by luck. Some of it has just been, it's definitely been an interesting road.
When you're wanting to make that happen, what were the like initial thoughts or goals that you wanted to do? Because I'm assuming it wasn't just like the super quick, I want to do like a recovery place. What were kind of like the steps before that? Like, how did you land on that? What were the ideas going through your head on what you wanted to do? What sparked the motivation? What did you see in the community that got you to be like, I need to do something?
Well, every one of these places that you step into in town, they're all very clinical. They're all very dry. And they're not very personable. And so when I started, when I thought, well, do I want to give this another try? I looked at some of that and went, what's going to set us different apart, because we can do anything that anyone else can do. It's going to be the way our initial contact with people. If you treat people like they belong and you treat them with respect, they'll come back. And I've seen it, and we are very I want to know how you're doing. I want to know what's happening. I will come in and have a cup of coffee, have a ramen noodle. It's something to get people, to help them feel wanted and appreciated and cared about, instead of being so clinical when they come in that they're just a number. And that's really what I when I did it this time, I wanted to do it more of a better bedside manner. I mean, who wants to go to a doctor or any clinic and realize, hey, they're just here to take my insurance. They don't care what happens at the end. And that's kind of what I looked at it.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that I could say that I've seen and noticed. Because a lot of times if I run into individuals, I refer them to you. And a lot of times when I'm out in the community during like my outreach days, that's a topic of conversation I talk about. Like, hey, are you interested in like recovery? Are you interested in going to detox? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm already talking to Randal. Like, we've done X, Y, and Z. He's actually pushed me to do X, Y, and like I've gotten so much feedback from the community about the work that you do. Oh. So it's definitely a testament to like that community that you build, that bedside manners of treating the individual with respect, making it feel like they're welcome instead of a number, instead of like an insurance bill that they're going to collect. And I've seen that time and time again when, even for the individuals that come in here, they're either coming in here right after visiting you or they're dropping by here to head to you. So I've definitely seen that that kind of like community that you've built in the short amount of time that you guys have actually been open. So when starting up and you got everything set and done, what are kind of some of the challenges that you didn't realize in terms of like the work that needed to be done to help these individuals?
Well, I kind of half did it prior, so I kind of knew some of some of the other, like the application that.
Yeah.
What were some of the problems that I've run into, and I'll be honest with you, is referral sources, and the referral source part of it is, when you're dealing with some of these other entities in town. The frustration that I have, and this is for the people going through whatever it is with the courts or DHS, that kind of stuff. It seems to me like it's a lot easier to put them on a 6-week waiting list with another one of the other facilities in town, clinics in town, than to get them immediate help. And I guess the frustration with the referral sources in town. We primarily work with, you guys, EOCIL and Community in Action, but everyone else is kind of, and I've tried handing out business cards. I've tried to schedule meetings with some of them, and they don't want anything to do with, and part of that I know was some rumors that were spread about me from walking away from that other business, but. Get to know me, not the rumor.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think that what you have going has really shown itself. Like I said again, from the people that I meet on a regular basis, coming into my office, out in the encampment site, out when I'm doing outreach, I say that speaks volumes because you are essentially making a massive impact in their lives that they can. For one, remember your name. Two, remember the appointments that they schedule with you, because that's really hard for a lot of individuals who live day by day, hour by hour. They can't really keep track of time as well as us. Like, we take for granted our phones that we can see the time, we can see the day, that we have jobs, we have laptops, we have all these things that help us keep track of stuff. And some of the individuals don't even have any of that. So the fact that they remember appointments, the fact that they speak highly, because they're the most honest people ever. They will break you down and make you cry in a heartbeat. I have had my fair share of that. So they're the most honest people. Them and children, like they're unfiltered. And it's amazing. They're honest. Very rarely do you run into people who are 100% honest with you all the time. But the people that we work with and the people that we interact with, extremely honest. So they'll definitely tell you what the deal is, and the fact that they've been so kind. In terms of what they say about you or Fort Rivers, it speaks volumes, I would like to say. So now kind of going into that. So for an individual, I guess let's start here then. So now that you got like the Four Rivers set up, what services do you cover? Do you do what kind of help do you provide to the individuals?
Well, we have peer support. We have classes. We have substance use assessments, use disorder assessments, groups. You know, any groups, anger management. Like I say, we can kind of pretty much do everything that everyone else in town does. The problem, or the thing that makes us different is when you come in and you need treatment and you get your assessment done and you're at a residential status, what I do is I encourage people to do residential, get those foundation under you first,
Yeah.
and then come back to us. I don't put you in this thing that says, oh, just keep doing this outpatient, and seeing no progress. I'd much rather have you go get the 90 days and residential, get that under your belt, and then come back to us and let's start the groups and the stuff in outpatient. The other thing is when you come in and you say, I need help in getting to residential, that's something that I don't quit on, right? I mean, most places say, hey, come in, oh, call this place, here's a number, here you go, give them a call. And you and I both know that doesn't work. Like you had explained in the beginning, that this person is struggling from this and this and this, doesn't know what time it is, what day it is, and they're handing a number for some detox center in Portland, Pendleton, or Baker, and says, here, call these guys and set this up. It just doesn't work. And so what we do is when you come in, we kind of take that over. We kind of fly that. And that's where our success comes from. You know, we give you that wraparound where it's not just on you. I'm going to work hard for you because I understand what you're going through, what you're dealing with.
That's what I have seen too. And that's what, like, when I used to do that, I still do some of that work, but when I know I can outsource it to like people like you who've done a really great job, it just makes it easier for me to be able to go out there and find more individuals to possibly share that message instead of being like bogged down. And yeah, you're absolutely, that is like the hardest thing ever, is telling them, hey, you got to make these phone calls. They don't answer, and I've had my fair share of waiting holds, and just to be told no, call again, call whatever. It gets super frustrating, and especially for individuals who are struggling right then and there, they don't have the patience, they don't have, the luxury to like just, oh, we'll handle it tomorrow, because tomorrow could be their last day, unfortunately. So I've definitely noticed that, and absolutely right, that is a big problem in terms of like a lot of places will just be like, well, here's your card. Just give them a call and if you need anything, come back to us. It's like, well, they need you now. Like,
and that from what I see is not working, and that's something that I would like to see other outfits get better at. Because if we all upped our game, we could have a lot more community type support. But it's all about, like I say, when somebody comes in and needs help, let's get on it. Let's make that phone call and call this place, and then get it set up and go through these. And it's not easy. I spend a lot of time on the phone. I spend a lot of time going through emails, making it happen. But it's for that individual. I'd rather get them in somewhere safe, somewhere warm, somewhere secure, start working on the problem, then say, oh, go call yourself, when half the time they don't even have a phone that is registered or works. And
that is the sad honest truth. It's so hard to just put everything on them when they're already struggling with so much, and it's just like the little things that we do to show them that we care, which really makes like an impact on them. So kind of like talking about some of the struggles, like for anyone who isn't familiar and says, oh, just get into recovery, oh, just put yourself in detox, like, why is it so hard? Do you kind of want to go through the steps of what that looks like? Like, say if I need to come into you, what's all has to happen in order for me to be able to go into a facility?
Well, first of all, I got to make sure that you have an insurance that the place will take. That's the number one thing. They're not going to take you without insurance. And then we kind of go through the assessment part. So I do your assessment, get your needs, see what level that you're needing of substance use on the level of it. And then if you hit residential status, then what I do is complete the assessment, schedule them a second appointment, and then I have them sign the ROIs and start forwarding that information into, and I approach them in a way that it is like, hey, this is what you assessed at. How do you feel about residential? And they're like, well, and do you feel you need a residential? So 95% of them feel that they do need some kind of residential, and then once I get that done, and I work primarily with New Directions, EORC. Those ladies that do the intake are great.
UORC has been lifesavers, especially on my end, especially because everything nearby seems to either be booked or really long wait lists, and they've actually been able to be like, hey, if you can get them here today, they got a bed. Yeah. And I've literally driven same day from Ontario all the way to Pendleton with a community member because they needed it then and there. So
and I have too, right? This waiting. So I've got it down to where I get that in. I talk to Kim in intake, and she moves things forward for me, and then hey, if you can get them here into detox today, I can take them when their detox time is done, and we'll jump on that. I'll call rideshare. Rideshare will either set it up or tell me they can't. If it's same day, then I just do it myself. I mean, it's just easier because the system isn't made for that immediate response. It just isn't.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, and then touching on that assessment, can you speak about like what all goes into doing that assessment? Like, what are you asking me? Because that could be sometimes kind of hard for people. Like, oh, they're gonna want super like specific details. It's gonna ask me some like really heavy questions. It might be triggering.
It's everything from trauma to substance use to the age of first use to all of it. What it's been like in the last year. And struggles, how much, it's just kind of conglomeration, family unit, a lot of people in those assessments, well, my so-and-so and so-and-so don't talk to me. And some of those assessments with the trauma and the family aspect, it's hard for people to get through some of those questions.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough to talk about that stuff.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, especially like first time user, I need some of like the really traumatic occurrences that people deal with, and I think that's what gets overlooked a lot, especially when the general public looks on or looks into like this population of people who use substances. It's always really negative. It's always hit with like, well, just stop, or they're just junkies, and they can quit. They just don't want to. And it's really hard to address like the trauma that lies beneath it and the reasons why they use.
Yeah, that trauma is a big one. And it ties into so much of that a lot of people don't want to remember, don't want to think about it, and it's just a way to get away, to get away.
Yeah, and especially like during like in Ontario where we go through all the seasons in full force. Not compared to like California where it's always sunny and warm day and night. Here, people got to survive to see tomorrow. They have to do something in order to not feel the pain of the cold winter nights that we currently have going on. Because like right now, during the time of recording, it's about like 34 degrees outside. It's snowing, and it's only going to get colder. So for individuals who literally have nothing, living out in the encampment sites, living out on the streets or houseless, how do you expect them to go another day feeling the things that they feel? I freak out in a cold shower, and let alone to be left outside.
I think it is. I don't know. That is such a tough question. We at Four Rivers do what we can, right?
Yeah.
We collect donations on Friday from Albertsons. We take them out to the encampments. I'm always handing out business cards. Hey, when you're ready, let's do this. When you're ready, let's do this. So I'm out there, in this weather at times to see this, and it is sad. It is heartbreaking. And anytime we can pull somebody out and start them on that path, it helps. It may help one person, it may help two people, but it is a sad sad to go out there and look at it. Like now, like you said today, it's just a muddy, mucky mess out there.
Yeah.
And how do people stay warm? How do they do this? And how do they do? It is sad.
Yeah. So what are kind of your ways to go about like fighting that discrimination, fighting the stigma, like advocating for these individuals and just educating those naysayers, those doubters, those people who don't believe that there's any good in individuals who use substances or are struggling with substance use?
Well, I've kind of seen it change with just some of my friends, my friends that I hang out with. They see what's happening. They see the need. Once you start saying, hey, there's a trauma or a mental illness behind it, it turns it into a little something else. It isn't just about the substance use. It's about the trauma, the mental health behind it. And there's a whole lot that go into it. But with what I do, I mean, I think just having an open door where you can come in, have a cup of coffee. There's no hard sell on an assessment. It's like, come in, get out of the cold, hang out for a minute. We'll see what we got back there to eat. To try to help everyone. And I think that's it. I think once you create those safe places where they can get this kind of treatment and get them moving, I think that's how you really educate everyone. It's more about opening the door, having a comfortable space, and then inviting people in.
Yeah, most definitely. I never took that into account until like even being here, having that comfortable space. Like, hate going to doctor's office. It feels so like I don't know, sickening, like
clinical. It's
super
clinical.
And then to force someone to go there to better themselves who are already in like a really hard position is really, really hard, right? So, no, I definitely feel that. So now, kind of going back into, we talked about what it takes or the steps that someone would have to do once they get into treatment. Do you do any follow-ups? How do you stay connected, or how do you ensure that?
Yeah. The release of information allows me to call and check on them. Most everybody usually calls in. It's funny. You send them to a 90-day program. And then about their 90 day, they start working on housing. They start working on this. I'm getting applications to Community in Action all the time to try to get some kind of housing for them, get that set up. But they're calling, hey, I'm about done with treatment. I really want to do outpatient with you guys, and it's like definitely come in and let's start the outpatient road. We got that hard building block underneath. Now let's start outpatient and continue this going. So it's a lot of what you do up front.
Yeah,
doesn't look like. I mean, it you do it up front, and then it's coming back on the back end.
Okay, and then right there you were talking about like kind of like the outpatient stuff. Can you explain like the difference between that, like being an inpatient recovery or outpatient and stuff like that, and why you would push more for the like inpatient, in facility, in bed?
The in bed is the problem with outpatient, and this is the problem with outpatient. When you're trying to find somebody for outpatient or get them to call back, it is nearly impossible they don't want to be found. They're not found. Inpatient, they're in a facility, they're secure, they're going through the groups, they're doing what is needed as far as education wise to help them get the treatment, complete their treatment goals. I believe it helps start that. You kind of start that, what does it say, 21 days to change a habit. Well, you start going through these groups, right? And you got 90 days to go through these groups. And I really feel that when they get out, they've had those new habits. They're going to groups. They're already doing this. And then they come back to outpatient and they're like, okay, I've already kind of done some of this. I've been on time for group. I've been on time for this. I've done this. And I think that helps the success in the outpatient as well.
I know a lot of people need to escape the environment that they're in. Like, you're only as some of the peers you're around, some of the people you're around. And if you're in a bad place and you're hanging around these people that might influence you in a poor way, or where you might be easily like tempted to, it can be really difficult to do that outpatient and to be around the scenery constantly and trying to like stay strong, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. So then, like from the start of doing Four Rivers recovery, how has it grown? Like, have you been able to provide more services, hire more staff, or like what are some of your successes? Because you guys have been doing like really well, and I remember the first time I think you came in here, you came in with just one other person, and then at the event not too long ago, Hands Around the Park, I saw you had a big old crew with you. So.
Well, we've kind of just collected this group of people, and it's been kind of it's been awesome to watch, and what I mean by that is it's just our client base has grown, and it hasn't. I mean, we get a few referrals here and there. 90% of it's from word of mouth, and that to me right there is, we must be doing something right. I mean, if you're telling your friend and you're telling this and this person and that person, and they are coming in, then we're doing something right. And so, yeah, it has grown. It, like you said, they're remembering who I am. And then I here recently just hired two more C80CR another C80CR that we're training, and then another peer support. So it's growing, and it's been fun to see. You know, I was a little hesitant at first, but I knew the only way to get through some of the stigma that has been placed on me was to get out there and hit those people that matter, the people on the bottom end. It's not about any of these big department heads or any of that. It's about the little person that needs the help.
Yeah, absolutely. And then a question I asked a lot of people, and kind of like a fun one, and I think I heard this term from one of our staff meetings. But if you had like a magic wand to do whatever it is, like say you're a genie in a bottle, what are some of the goals and aspirations that you would want to see for Four Rivers down the road? Like if you just have it today, you want to provide inpatient treatment, like you want to have your own complex to be able to do inpatient, or like what is your magic wand moment to help improve the dream that you have for Four Rivers?
I would like a couple things. I'd like a detox. I'd love to get back into residential. I loved it when I did it for Lifeways. It was just, it was great. And then housing. We need so much housing in this area. I would definitely start looking into that as well, to be able to help people so they at least have something somewhere warm, safe to stay until we get some of these issues. So I'm going to say detox, residential, and then additional housing.
The housing aspect is sometimes, I think, for the general population, not us within like the actual system, because we know how bad it is, but for people, it's like, why is it so hard for people to stay sober or to not relapse? It's because where are they supposed to go if there's no housing? Where's this structure for them to be at? If you send them, they come off of being houseless into a rehab facility for 90 days, they come out to what?
Yeah, and that's why we try to do that. You know, say, hey, we got this person here. How can we get him into some kind of housing? Because if you send them into the 90-day or even the detox, and you send them in there, and then they don't have a safe place to come out, all you're doing is just running them through that cycle, right? It's just that wheel, and then they go back out, pick up the habit again to stay warm, because I told meth keeps you warm. And then, you're just in that perpetual wheel. And I'd like to see that perpetual wheel change.
And I know like the downside to that is, once they go through detox, rehab, like 2 or 3 times, they come to the conclusion of like, what's the point?
Yep.
I can't better myself. I've done it 3 times. I've gone through all the hard work of going through detox. The detoxing in itself is pretty. It's not pretty. It's awful.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's awful for a lot of people. So to go through that 3 or 4 times, knowing what to expect, knowing how hard it was each time, like people just they give up on the idea of wanting to do treatment. I've run into so many individuals like, oh, I've done that, been there. Yep. Look where I am today. I'm like, I'm sorry that it came to that, but that housing aspect, getting that structure of like what are they supposed to do after, because there's nothing here, especially in the area where we're currently at.
Yeah,
It's awful.
we have such limited resources here in Malheur County, and we have a little bit, but we don't have near enough to fix or to help what we've got. And I think that's like the biggest thing is when somebody goes to these treatment facilities, to have a place that they can transition into, so they can keep this thing going, because it's, you're right. Why would someone, if that's all they're going back to, the same environment with the same friends with the same people, and you can't get away from it.
Yeah, and there's so many factors. Like when I first started, my initial thing was that, like, why don't they just go into rehab? Like I see so many places, like it can't be that hard. They just might not want to. That was my initial thoughts before I came into this position. That was like the way I grew up thinking, and getting into it, learning the actual system itself and how hard it is for individuals to first succeed in those kind of like inpatient facilities, for them to flourish outside once graduating. It's definitely eye-opening, being in the business, I guess, so to say. But yeah, it's definitely need more housing. I think a lot of people don't really realize that how much goes into the post of rehab and getting into treatment, detox, and whatnot. And then moving on to another question I have, and then is like, how then can we like support you in terms of like organizationally, for any organization listening, or for like any audience, general population listening? How do we support the work that is you're doing?
That's it. I think, like you said, just word of mouth. Get us out there. Get us. I'm hoping, like I said, some of these department heads lower let some of this go and move on. So, because I'm here to help. I'm just here to help. I'm here to add another set of resources. We do good work. It sounds like from what you had said.
Yeah.
So let us help, and we'll, like I said, you have somebody struggling, we'll help them. We'll help navigate the system, and it is it's not easy, but it's something, like I said, that it is something I enjoy. I enjoy doing it, and we've gotten pretty good at it.
Options matter. The people you talk to matter. Being able to connect with one peer counselor over another matters. Just because one didn't really work out doesn't mean that someone else doesn't have like that connection with you or that relatability. Because many times you can walk into a place and just not click with an individual.
Yeah.
And then just go somewhere else, and you absolutely form this bond and have this sense of trust and community. So definitely try that out. Do you guys only have an office here in Ontario?
Yes.
Okay. And then what are your guys' hours? How do we get a hold of you or your staff?
We have a phone tied to our phone number, which is the office phone number is 541-709-3059. That is goes to a cell phone, so we don't miss calls. Mondays we're open from 9 to 3. That's just because we're still getting that clientele built up. But most of the week, Saturdays we're open from about 9 to 2, I think, on Saturdays. That's by appointment as well. But Monday through Friday we're probably there 9 to 5, 9 to 6, or Tuesday through Friday is about 9 to 6, somewhere in there. And so, yeah, I spend a lot of time there. I
say that's 6 days out of the week.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that Saturday one. That's very interesting. Appointment only, because a lot of places here.
Well,
it's Monday through Friday, and that's it.
That's it. Well, and Saturdays, if you get in some kind of like with a DUI or something like that, most people work those hours. So we try to offer that Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday open, so you can come in and do our DUI group and give people options other than the Monday through Friday all the time, because that doesn't work all the time.
Yeah,
it just doesn't.
No, for sure. Yeah, that's absolutely true, and especially for oh, like how do I say it? Like especially for people who are working, I see it here too, because not just the houseless, not just the unemployed use substances. Anyone and everyone can use substances. Everyone has their own traumas, but if I'm only open 9 to 5, then that leaves those people who are trying to work, trying to go through life. It makes it unable for them to like visit me. But the fact that you guys are still open on a Saturday, I think that's even an extra step that
Yeah, a lot of places
Yeah.
don't do that, and like I said, we're just we're trying to be different in town, and we do, and like I say, our staff, whatever, is going to need
Yeah.
some time off here, so I'm hoping like during Christmas that everybody can get a good break, a couple days in there, because this group that I have worked with absolutely. They work hard. They care about what they're doing, and honestly, that's the only way I can see places like this surviving is if you care, and we care, and those guys are amazing that I have in that office. They care so much. It's nice to see.
I want to be respectful of your time too. Do you have any like departing words, any message you would like to share with the audience? Anything that they should know? Do you have any upcoming events? Do you have any upcoming programs that are opening up? Just anything you want to share. Floor is yours.
Oh, well, I'm adding a couple more peer support, so that's growing. We're going to have some peer groups up and running here pretty soon. That's peer-led groups that help more on a peer level, that they're led. They're maybe not so uptight as other groups. But no, just come in and have a cup of coffee if you guys want to get to know Four Rivers and who we are, and we're here, and so far we're not going anywhere.
Well, that's good to know. Well, thank you so much, Randall. It's been really great to have you and to learn more. Like I even learned a lot through this recording that we've got, and I appreciate it. I think your work has definitely been seen, has definitely been valued, and as long as you're around, I'm going to continue to like refer people to places that I know will help and put the energy and effort behind it and behind them, giving them the opportunity to better their lives. So thank you so much, Randall, for joining me on today's episode.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. That has been Voices in Action, a podcast by Eastern Oregon Center for Independent Living. And with that, everyone, it wraps up today's episode. And I thank you all for tuning in and joining in on the conversation that I had with Randall over at Four Rivers Recovery. If you'd like to know more about their services, I encourage you to check them out online, or you can also give them a call at 541-709-3059. And like always, if you have any questions about any of the material or content covered throughout this episode, I encourage you all to check us out online at www.eocil.org, or you can visit one of our 4 office locations throughout Eastern Oregon, which are in The Dalles, Pendleton, LeGrand, and Ontario. And with that, everyone, thank you again for listening to Voices in Action, a podcast by Eastern Oregon Center for Independent Living.